This will always be known as the mosquito mud camp. It's one thing to have mud and another to have this level of mud. It's one thing to slap mosquitoes, but it's another thing to have them flying into your mouth and taste them. We were on a whole nother level at this place. Mowgli's saw took a wrong bounce and fell into the river.
I got it!
Dottie acted fast and recovered it, making it the first piece of gear this river hasn't swallowed. This is a little game I play when Dottie's in my canoe. After I finish eating fruit, I try and throw it as close to her head as I can without hitting her head. This time she didn't even notice. Today was unfortunately her last day with us. We've kept in touch with a river angel up in Minnesota and told him that she had to fly home. He said he knew someone who could get her to the airport if she flew out of St. Louis, so that's where she booked her flight. The same man who's taking her to the airport found himself in need of a canoe and is buying the Sandra Jean. Everything's been organized in advance, and now we just get to enjoy the last little bits of time we have with her until she goes back to Australia and starts another semester of university. We paddled under roads familiar to me as we came into the St. Louis metro area. I drove an 18-wheeler over these bridges many times in the 3 years I was a truck driver. Getting all the way to St. Louis in our canoes was significant to me for several reasons. It's kind of the halfway point. Not perfectly halfway if you look at the mileage, but if you look at a map, Missouri's halfway down the river and St. Louis is halfway down Missouri. Call it the spiritual halfway point because we still have a little bit further to go before we hit half by the miles. But it's a major milestone on the river, also the place where Dottie will be getting off. It seems like a good place for her to end her journey. We'd rather she stayed with us and paddle all the way to the sea, but we knew she'd have to leave. The three of us in our canoes in front of this iconic arch is a photograph I've wanted to take this entire trip. I was so grateful that just one day before she leaves, she would be in this picture of the three of us in front of the arch. Ever since the Melvin Price Dam, things have gotten very busy and industrial, but it hit a whole new level in St. Louis. It was barges and towboats the whole way down on both banks of the river. Plus there were factories, power plants, infrastructure, railroads, bridges, all kinds of things. Everything was turning up weight too, so the water got pretty rough as we went through the city. It wasn't dangerous to the point we needed to get off, but we did need to take precautions. All three of us had our life jackets buckled on from the time we saw the skyline until we were in our camp for the night. Mowgli, how do you feel now that you've paddled through St. Louis, Missouri? Mowgli wasn't impressed that we went through the city. He likes to keep his contacts with the paved world to a minimum. Although the city was a significant milestone for me, I didn't want to stop there. I once dated a woman from St. Louis, and her mother was very wonderful, but she was nothing like her mother. It's a prosperous city with an interesting past, but I think Missouri's treasures lay outside of the city limits. That's where we headed, outside the city limits. We stopped for lunch on a beachy spot of ground with no bugs, because the raindrops were all knocking them out of the air. The hunt for an evening camp took longer. We saw this ladder and thought it might be promising, sent Dottie up to check it out, but she turned right back around and came down with all the mosquitoes chasing her that way. Other spots we checked were composed of a soil that was more like a paste than a dirt. Dottie found an island full of willows where we would ultimately spend the night. A grove of willow trees, much like the inside of a brand new car, has its own perfect, sweet, fresh smell. Being in one feels fresher than drinking cold water out of a clean glass. It's been a real treat to have them on the river. Dottie used a paint marker to paint her symbol onto Mowgli's canoe, a sort of parting gift, while I started the fire and Mowgli worked on a little project of his own.
It's a necklace. You know, you, me, and that stinky thing we brought with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
Every bit of that necklace, including the tools he used to make it, were scavenged from this river. The band of the necklace is a twine that he made out of stinging nettle. The charms are a piece of red cedar he found in Minnesota and 2 pieces of white-tailed deer antler. The blade he used to cut all these parts he made from a piece of limestone. We celebrated her last night in camp in each other's company, eating apple pie beside the fire, smelling the willows, and watching the sun go down.